Well, that last video did not have a happy ending. You see, I had to go to the emergency room, and then I was admitted to the hospital for 3 days. Let me tell you, that was no fun. But while I was in the hospital, I did have a come to Mr. Be Safe moment. And I want to share that with you today. We're going to go out in the shop, but just to do a little tour. We're not going to operate any equipment today. I want to tell you what I've learned and what I am implementing for safety. The first thing that I do now before I go out into my woodworking shop is I have a little pre-job brief with myself. I ask myself the question, am I ready for the shop? Is the shop ready for me? And do I know what the results of my actions will be? Today, as I said, we're just going to take a tour. We're not going to operate any equipment. I am ready for the shop. I am not thinking or distracted by any problems at this time. I haven't been drinking in the last 8 to 10 hours. And so I am ready for the shop. The shop is ready for me. It is now cleaned up. The weather in the shop today is mild, so hydration will not be a problem. So that's the end of the pre-job brief. Now let's go out into the shop and look at some of the measures I've implemented so that what happened to me last time does not happen to me ever again. Well, as you can see, the shop is cleaned up. All the tools have been put away. The shop floor is clean, no tripping hazards. When I use a tool, I know where it's at. When I'm done with it, I put it away. That's the way this shop is going to stay, clean. Let's look at some other safety features that I've implemented in this shop. As far as PPE is concerned, I have my PPE, personal protective equipment, all in one spot. It's always hanging here. I've got a dust mask, I've got goggles, and I have earplugs. Now let's take a look at this rail arm saw. Yes, I found the blade guard and I've attached it. Now, when I operate this equipment, can I know that it's safe? I can know that it's safe, but I must respect it. I also have to know what this piece of equipment, how can it hurt me? The only way this piece of equipment, this rail arm saw, can hurt me is with this left hand. It could get my fingers. And the only way that it can get my fingers is if I get distracted, if I start daydreaming, or if I'm not paying attention and I put these fingers in the line of fire. This hand is safe, it's on the handle, but these fingers are in danger. Before I operate this piece of equipment, I always think of my friend up in Kirkland, Washington, and what happened to him on this piece of equipment. You see, about 35 or 40 years ago, when we were both very young men, we were getting interested in woodworking. Only truth to tell, he was far more advanced than I was. And he was using a saw just like this, and he lost his big toe. You see, what would happen is that he was cutting many pieces of wood very quickly, and he put his thumb right here, and the saw cut his thumb off. Now, I said he lost his big toe because he has both of his thumbs today. What he doesn't have is a big toe. And the reason he doesn't have a big toe is because the doctors cut off his big toe and attached it to his thumb. And he told me, Jim, you never realize how much balance and stability your big toe adds to your walking until you lose it. So he lost, like I said, a part of his body to this saw. If it could happen to him, it can definitely happen to me. So I always want to remember that when I turn this saw on, have a little healthy paranoia, a little respect for what this saw can do, and know at all times where this hand is. If I have to make exaggerated movements with this hand, that's fine, as long as I don't make unnecessary movements that I'm not aware of. So, that's the radial arm saw, and if you know what I just told you, you can be safe in operating this. Now let's take a look again at the table saw. Last week I said this was the safest piece of equipment in any shop. You know what? I was wrong. This is the most dangerous piece of equipment in any woodworking shop. The table saw is more dangerous than the radial arm saw because, unlike the radial arm saw, the table saw can kill you. And the way it's going to kill you is what we call kickback. It can kick back the wood you're cutting at over 100 miles an hour. And there have been fatalities on this saw. Not this saw in particular, but on table saws in general. So when we're using this, we want to make sure we have all our PPE. We also want to be using other safeguards, like a push stick to push the wood, keep our hands out of the way. I have a feather board here that will hold the wood against the fence. I want to make sure that this fence is parallel with the blade. And I also want to have an important piece of equipment which is called a splitter. The splitter makes sure that the wood you cut stays open and it precludes kickback from happening. Now, before I operate this piece of equipment, I always do a little OE in my mind. I think back to my father-in-law. Let me tell you about my father-in-law. He grew up in the oil fields of East Texas. This man can do anything with his hands. Replace engines, transmissions. He had a MIG welder. He does welding, electrical work. He wired his shop for 220. He's put in air conditionings, and all the tools you see here are his. So this is a very smart man when it comes to woodworking. You know what? On this very saw, he was cutting a small piece of wood. When he put his finger into the blade, he did not lose it, thank God. But of course he had to stop immediately. His wife had to drive him to the emergency room, and you know that's a lost day, if nothing else. So again, if that could happen to him, it can certainly happen to me. So I need to stop and think before I use this saw. Am I using it correctly? Do I know I'm safe? And if I don't know I'm safe, I need to stop and figure out how to be safe or use another piece of equipment. So, finally we come to hand tools, which are common in any shop. And last week we looked at a chisel, and we're going to look at that again. So if I may, I'll come on over here. Again, we have our Japanese chisel. And again, it's concaved in the back, but not for the reasons I stated. There's numerous reasons for this being concave, but we're not interested in that now. We want to talk about safety with hand tools, and the number one lesson is keep your hands and body parts out of the line of fire. And it's easy to say, but it's hard to do because you get distracted, you forget where this hand is, and you place the body part in the line of fire. I've actually done that with a chisel, and let me tell you, it was no fun. I didn't go to the emergency room, but I had a sore thumb for about a week. So always remember where the line of fire is and keep your body parts out of that line of fire. Now I want to conclude with a word from my new best friend, Mr. Bob B. Safe.
Remember, safety is our #1 goal, so and enjoy your day. Thanks for this great lesson, Jim. Much better than last week when you were drunk and you threw me in the garbage can. Don't ever do that again. Please.